My education as an insurance broker started in 1972. I started work in 1956, but my real education began when my then company merged with another that had a big shareholding in Nasco, and I met Maurice and Saba. And what did I learn? I learned, first of all, about the strength of partnership, of relationship. When I asked my colleagues, tell me something about Nasco, they said, first of all, that Nasco stood, the letters stood for not a serious company. Well, I found that it was not a serious company because we laughed very, very often. But it was serious in the things that actually mattered. Serious in terms of trust between people, trust between people who worked in Nasco and their clients. And above all, I learnt to admire so greatly the strength and resilience of that organization, which was tested, like so many others of you here this evening, from 1975 onwards. I felt a very ordinary, ill-educated Englishman compared to the flexibility, the reaction, the ability to change, to move, to shift to location, to develop new business, and yet to keep the loyalty, the continuation of relationship, even through the most difficult troubles. I learned also that the most testing problems are solved best in the best hotels of the world. Never ever was a Nasco meeting held other than in circumstances almost like this. And from 1972 onwards, I came to the conclusion this was indeed an ideal way to run a business. My relationship lasted as a partner until 1987, when my then company, Stuart Wrightson, was taken over by Willis Faber. And one of the consequences, which I think has been a fresh boost to Nasco, if a boost indeed was needed, was that at that time Nasco negotiated the repurchase of its shares and was able to reconstitute the shareholding and bring into the shareholding some of those very people who'd been associates from the beginning of the company. And I think one of the delights of being with you here this evening is to find so many of those friends, the Aubergis, Sheikh Abdul Aziz, and many, many others who were associated in those early days. I think often about Nasco, now that I'm not a partner, and yet I still do feel a partner, because despite there is no longer the link of business shareholding, we talk very frequently. At one period of my life, every single morning, Maurice rang me up at 8 o'clock. Now he rings me up sometimes at 8 o'clock, 8:30. He says, David, why have you not spoken to me? And then I try to make him feel guilty as well, but we go on seeing each other, and that same feeling of relationship and trust, which I think spreads amongst all their clients and their friends, exists enormously as far as I'm concerned. I was thinking about this evening, and as some of my friends here know, I love playing golf, and I was thinking about a particular story. Perhaps the greatest golfer who ever lived was a man called Bobby Jones. He was American, and he played golf at the end of the 1920s and the beginning of the 1930s. And he gave up competition golf because he had won quite literally every important tournament in the world in 1 year. Both sides of the Atlantic, he won the amateur and professional championships, and there was nothing else for him to do. In the 1950s, he came back to St Andrews, the scene of his greatest triumphs in Scotland. And that city gave him the freedom of the city. And he made a speech of thanks. And he said to the citizens of St Andrews that if he had to black out the whole of the rest of his life and only have the experiences that he'd had at St Andrews, he would have had a full, rich and satisfying life. Well, I think that if I had to black out all my business experiences and only have the experiences that I have with Nasco, I too would have a full, rich, satisfying business life. Maurice, Saba, Serge, Cyril, Gino, Jackie, Therese, I salute you. I salute you for excellence, for friendship, for affection, for amusement, for laughter, for fun, for pleasure, and for all the things that make life worth living. The next 25 years of Nasco, I know, will be in safe hands, with Maurice and Saba watching over it and the next generation coming through. Please go on. Please go on giving us the pleasure you have in the past. And I expect to enjoy it for tens, even hundreds of years ahead. Good luck to you all.